My wife cheated, so I tricked her into publicly admitting to having the affair and herpes. This story is about 12 years old. I told it to one of my coworkers yesterday, and he said I should share it to Reddit. Today he again nudged me, so here we are having drinks before the 4-day weekend, and my writing is complete. So first time here, and hi y'all, sorry if there are typos. In college, I met the woman who I thought was my one. We dated for about 2 years and had a big-ass wedding after a 10-month engagement. Her family was pretty well-to-do in a small southern town. We were both continuing our educations, and I was also working to support us. I was pursuing a master's in engineering while she was finishing her doctorate in anthropology. Over the summer, an opportunity came up for her to make some extra money going as an aide on a religious studies trip to Jamaica. I didn't hesitate when she asked me about it. I mean, she was going to get to visit Jamaica and get paid for it. I saw no downside other than missing her being at home for 6 weeks. Little did I know at the time, but she had been fucking the professor. He had hung out with us, smoked my weed, and drank my fucking beer. I considered him a friend who arranged the trip for a couple of months, and it was a getaway for them to bang all over the island. I, clueless and happy, went about the weeks while she was gone, taking extra shifts so I could match what she made in our account and surprise her. What a dipshit, right? One of the students from the trip actually sought me out to clue me in. I didn't believe him until I started looking for evidence on my own. I broke down and checked her texts while she was sleeping, and nothing was there. There were a few VMs, so I decided to listen, and there it was, a message from that giant asshole saying how exciting it was that I almost caught them. I opened up her laptop and hit the emails after that. It was piles and piles of shit, making fun of me for not knowing, fucking in our bed, and laughing about it. There was so much, and I was so heartbroken. Still too hurt to take any action. I was lost. I had no idea what to do, so I sat on it for a couple weeks and acted as normally as I could. I noticed everything now. I felt so stupid for not seeing it before. So many signs. One stuck out in particular. I noticed that our stash of homemade weed lube, if you've never tried it, I highly recommend giving it a go, was going down even though we weren't having sex. It was obvious they were also using the fruits of my labor to get off more effectively. This really pissed me off. Like unreasonably so, Hulk fucking mad. It finally all hit me. I was a goddamn joke to these assholes, and they were using the lube I made and fucking in my bed. I didn't hurt anymore, I just wanted to make them hurt. So, while she was studying at the library, I made a new batch of lube. I put enough weed in it for it to smell like normal, but I also added some poison ivy from our backyard to the mixture, and after refilling the spray bottle we used for the application, I waited. A few days go by and I'm working extra so I can be out of the house more, and bam, bait taken. That night after she goes to sleep, my plan goes into action. I sneak her phone away and delete my contact while replacing his phone number in her contact with mine. I go to bed but can't sleep because it feels like I'm 5 and tomorrow is Christmas. Dawn arrives and she's in the shower. I get a text. "Am super itchy, are you okay? Now Lord, now is my time." Look, I thought it had cleared up, but I guess I had a flare up. "I'm sorry, but I've got herpes, and I guess you do now too. I heard this bitch squeak in the shower. I'm covering my mouth and damn near losing it." I went on to tell her that it was time to end things now. A new semester was about to start and I kind of have a little crush on another T/A. I wanted her mad. This is a woman that never got told no growing up and never had to deal with rejection. Let alone from a balding dude in his 50s with herpes. When she got out of the shower, it was obvious she had been crying, but I could see the anger in her eyes. I could see how uncomfortable she was, squirming at the table drinking coffee and mulling the situation over. Another little nudge is what she needed. The reply she got to her pages and pages of anger and sadness was, "Thanks for the good times, but can you keep this a secret between us? I don't want to ruin my chances with anyone else." She's flushed with anger now, just seething. She gathered her keys and headed out the door without even saying goodbye. I knew where she was going. I booted up her laptop and set it to reformat, deleting her dissertation and any notes pertaining to it before following her to campus. I parked a few lots over and rushed over to his office, where I find her screaming at him for giving her herpes. There are lots of people there. Professors, aides, students, and other faculty. I'm dying. He is beyond embarrassed and confused as fuck. She is ugly, crying in front of her peers. I'm in heaven. I didn't even care that people were going to think I had herpes too. The fallout was apocalyptic in their department. He lost his job due to the code of conduct at the university. We got divorced the following year. State law was we had to be separated for 1 full year before being granted a divorce. I got to keep most of the assets, primarily savings, and not a ton, but I worked for it. She never finished her doctorate and went on to be a perpetually pregnant housewife that sells Herbalife on Facebook, and he teaches high school now. It took a few years for it all to unfold, but watching it was glorious. My wife doesn't have sex with me, but goes out to have sex with her ex-boyfriend. I'm mostly posting this for my own sanity and so I can get my story out there, as I don't have anyone in my life I can share it with. Opinions are welcome, but that's not why I'm here. I, 23M, met my wife, 24F, when we were both 18. It was honestly a whirlwind romance, and it sucked me in. We met online, had an amazing first date, and it just felt right. I was troubled over a no-contact breakup I had, but she didn't feel like a rebound. Everything was great. We had great sex. My family loved her, and all was good. She ended up moving in with me temporarily after 2 months of dating due to other circumstances outside her control, and there were no problems at all. She fit into my life great. We got engaged at 6 months, married a little after a year together at a small ceremony, and life felt sweet. She had baggage that I was aware of, but not to the extent as I had previously though. She had trauma from a parent passing, as well as clinical depression. It was managed with medication and wasn't a big deal. Almost 6 months pass, and it quickly becomes less sweet. We were involved in a motor vehicle accident that resulted in her requiring back surgery. It took a huge mental toll on her, worsening her depression. While her surgery was successful, it still left her with significant pain. I was the best husband I could be. I accompanied her to every doctor's appointment and PT session. I helped with lawyer stuff for the lawsuit stemming from the accident. I held down the finances as the only working person in the relationship. Sex became difficult for her to enjoy, due to both her depression and being in physical pain during. We ended up only having mediocre sex very sporadically for the next year or so, maybe once every 2 weeks, sometimes once a month. At this point, a year and a half into marriage and a year post-accident, she brings up the idea of open relationships and threesomes, something we had talked about on occasion but never deeply discussed and considered. She wanted to start with a threesome, and said she would feel comfortable doing it with someone she had already been with, and suggested her ex. I should have taken it as a sign, but I didn't. She starts hanging out with the aforementioned ex, and I didn't object as I don't like being a possessive person, and trusted her. After a week or so, I get a random FB message from someone saying they saw my wife with the ex and that they were doing stuff. No further elaboration, no other messages. I ask her about it, and she says the girl who messaged me was just obsessed with her ex and was jealous they were hanging out. I did what I always did, which was believe and trust her. A month later, while we were laying in bed in the morning, I watched a random YouTube video that related to cheating somehow. She starts crying and confesses that she ended up having sex with her ex and that she couldn't keep it to herself anymore after a month of deceit. I believe it was genuine disdain for her own actions and guilt, not just an act. She swore up and down that they only had that sort of contact the one time and that it was very dissatisfying. I tried my best to forgive her and not come to terms with what happened. She was my best friend. I had to try, but it was clear that she used the threesome discussion just to have another romp with her ex. She didn't want to have sex with me often, but it was worth the physical pain for her to go out of her way to fuck him. That was now 2.5 years ago. Her depression deeply worsened, has crippling guilt and remorse over her actions. I feel entirely detached from her, and I'm only with her because I felt it was the right thing to try and push through. I did have a night of bad feelings and read her texts to her best friend. It was clear that although she only had sex with him once, they had done things short of having sex a few times before it that she never mentioned. She has one friend. My family is more of a family than her own to her, can't work because of her back, and has had suicidal thoughts in the past. I felt that if I left, she would not make it, and I could not live with myself if I did that to her. I couldn't uproot and ruin her life. Wanted a few times to have some sort of relationship to distract me from it all, but nothing would ever really help, and that only serves to make me a cheater too. I just don't understand how I could have been so naive. I've never been able to tell anyone because it would bring repercussions to her, and I can't talk to her about how because it would shatter her, and I can't ruin her as she did me. I feel broken. Update. I told her how I felt. I told her about all the hurt, confusion, and despair I felt. She nearly passed out when she finally understood how she silenced me and separated me from support. We are going to try and have booked a counseling session for both of us. I spoke with a good friend of mine about it yesterday for the first time ever, and I've never cried in front of a friend before then. He helped me come to the conclusion that if I don't feel differently after a few months of counseling, then I'm going to need to distance myself. I feel guilt, I feel regret, and I feel shame. It doesn't feel like my life anymore.